Love doesn't recognize background, wealth, or status. It simply finds a heart that feels right. The scent of grilled meat drifted down the street, coiling around the tires of exotic cars and drawing the attention of passers-by. Among the rows of roadside vendors, one man stood out, not because of wealth or power, but because of the quiet elegance in his focus. Choka wiped sweat from his brow as he turned skewers of suya over glowing charcoal. His shirt clung to his muscular frame, stained with the day's work. But his eyes were steady and intelligent. Beneath his suya apron was a man with dreams bigger than his roadside stall. Amara stepped out of her father's mansion, the sun glinting off the diamonds on her wrist. Her friend's laughter echoed behind her. As she passed by the suya stand, he didn't look up, didn't try to impress her. That alone made her curious. "Give me the spice zest you've got," she said, removing her sunglasses. He looked up. Their eyes met. "My soya bites hard," he warned, and half smile tugging at his lips. "I'm not afraid of fire," she replied. That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Amara returned often, ordering more suya than she could eat, asking questions, listening to his thoughts. Her friends whispered behind her back, "Why him, Amara? He smells of smoke. Your father will die if he hears this." But Amara was drawn not to the smoke or the spice, but to the way Choka spoke. With purpose, passion, and a quiet strength. What no one knew was that after the grill cooled at night, Choka pulled out a dusty laptop and logged into his freelance dashboard. Coding, troubleshooting, and building websites for foreign clients. He had a computer science degree, earned by night selling suyas and attending lectures by day. His clients never knew he cooked meat in the open sun to fuel his education. Now, while his hands worked the fire, his mind was building algorithms and securing cloud systems. Amara Okonkwo was used to being admired. The daughter of Chief Maxwell Okonkwo, oil magnate, real estate mogul, and philanthropist. She had the kind of life most only dreamed about. From a private schooling in Switzerland to champagne brunches in Dubai, she had seen the world before most girls her age had left their neighborhoods. Her friends Ifoma, Zara, and Toke were daughters of men just like hers. Men who dined with presidents and played golf with foreign investors. So, when Amara started frequenting a roadside suya spot, they were convinced it was a phase, but it wasn't. They watched her from their cars, faces twisted in disbelief. "You are embarrassing us," Ifoma hissed one evening. "What if someone sees you?" "I don't live for someone," Amara replied coldly. "You are dating a suya seller, Amara. You, a billionaire's daughter? Have you lost your mind?" Amara didn't respond. She looked toward the fire where Choka stood, tongue in hand, humming to himself as smoke rose behind him like a crown. There was something regal about the way he worked. Honest, patient, grounded. And she was tired of people who wore suits but had empty souls. The whispers grew louder. Toge sent her a link of articles on marrying within your class. Zara warned her about gold diggers. Ifoma was blunt. "Do what you want, but don't cry when your father disowns you." But Amara wasn't blind. She watched Choka walk a pregnant woman across the street one rainy afternoon. She saw the way he offered suya to beggars who couldn't pay. And one night, after the crowd thinned out, she asked, "Do you ever dream of doing something else?" He glanced at her. "I already do, every night." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Choka smiled faintly and pointed to a small bag tucked under the stall. "That's my second life. Coding, cybersecurity. I I freelance for people in New York, London, places I will probably never see. Amara's heart skipped. You're a tech guy? Computer science, UNN, Suya funded my tuition. Suya feeds me now. That night, she cried in her room, not because of shame, but because the world couldn't see what she saw. One weekend, Amara followed him home, not a date, just curiosity. Choka lived in a small but clean one-room apartment, decorated with sticky notes of python scripts and motivational quotes. I keep the grill because it taught me patience, he said as he made her tea. But my nights belong to tech. She saw his projects, a mobile app to teach children local languages, a website built for a non-profit in Kenya, a server security audit for a US client, the kind of portfolio Silicon Valley would pay attention to. You could be anywhere, she whispered. I will be, he answered. I am just waiting for the right door to open. That night, she lay in her bed, thinking of all the polished men who had chased her with money but no debt. And this one who grilled meat by the day and built digital empires by night. Eventually, the rumors found their way to Chief Maxwell Okonkwo. She's seen a suya seller, his cousin whispered during a family dinner. The room went still. The chief looked at his daughter across the table, calm, poised, radiant. Amara, she expected anger, shouting, a threat to cut her off. Instead, her father asked, Is it true? Yes, Daddy. Why? She looked him in the eyes because he's a man of value, not just a man with value. Chief Maxwell's lips curved. That was what her late mother had once said about him when he had nothing but big dreams and dusty bicycles. Bring him to dinner next Sunday. Her heart pounded. You're serious? If he has truly won your heart, let me see why. Sunday came. Chuka wore a neatly ironed shirt, simple pants, and brought a bottle of palm wine, the good kind. He greeted the house staff with warmth and addressed the chief with humility but not fear. Over dinner, he spoke about AI, about agriculture and coding, about how he believed small businesses were the future of Africa. The chief listened, fascinated. When Amara left to take a call, the chief leaned forward. You remind me of myself 30 years ago, except you're smarter. Choka chuckled nervously. I had nothing but drive, the chief said, and people called me unworthy. Now look where we are. I just want to make her happy, sir. That's all I needed to hear. Choka had faced many grills in his life, but nothing prepared him for sitting across from Nigeria's oil tycoon Chief Maxwell Okonkwo, yet he held his own. After dinner, as Amara walked him to the gate, her hand brushed against his. I was scared, she whispered. Why did you do it? Because you're the first person who saw me beyond the smoke. And in that moment, under the compound's glowing lights, they shared their first kiss, soft, uncertain, and unforgettable. Not everyone celebrated the couple's bond. Ifeoma posted a cryptic tweet. Even princesses can fall for peasants when bored. It trended. Zara went further. She leaked old photos of Choka's tale with the caption, Suya to Silicon Valley, or just another hustle romance? The ridicule was sharp. Chuka saw it all. He said nothing to Amara, but stopped replying to her messages for 3 days. When she confronted him, he signed, I didn't sign up to become entertainment for the rich. She held his hand. Then don't let them define you. But the seed of doubt had been planted. A week later, Chief Maxwell invited Choka to his office, a tall marble building with a scent of money and power. I have a preposition, the chief said, sliding a file forward. Come work for me. head of digital expansion. You will be earning 10 times what your US clients pay. Choka's eyes narrowed. Why? You're good, I like you, but I also want my daughter's future secure. It sounded noble, but it felt like a leech. Thank you, sir, but I would like to get there myself. The chief's smile faded. Choka left with shaking hands and a racing heart. He needed air, needed clarity. So Choka traveled to his village in Enugu, a place with rusted roofs, warm laughter, and soil he could trust. His mother welcomed him with tears and a calabash of palm wine. He told her everything. You're afraid, she said. Yes. Then remember who you are, not who they want you to be. That night, under the stars, he opened his laptop, updated his pitch deck, and applied to Y Combinator, one of the world's biggest tech incubators. If he was going to prove himself, he would do it on his own terms. Amara grew restless. Chuka was distant again. Her friends whispered more. Even the house staff started treating her differently, with pity. One afternoon, she confronted her father. Did you offer him a job? I did. Why? To protect you. You don't protect a flower by locking it in a vault. You let it bloom. The chief looked away. That night, Amara typed a message to Choka. I don't need your bank account. I need your presence, even if it's in the suya smoke. He didn't reply until 4 a.m. Get ready. We might be going to California. Choka's speech had made it past the first round. A startup idea based on local commerce platforms for informal African markets had caught the eyes of Silicon Valley investors. He returned to Lagos, glowing with purpose. Amara met him at the airport, her hair wide and eyes alive. We made it, she whispered. Not yet, he said, but we are burning brighter. At the next family dinner, he showed the chief his acceptance email. Y Combinator, 3 months in California, seed funding, global exposure. The chief leaned back, stunned. And for the first time, he stood and clapped. Now you're someone the world will know. Y Combinator had sent both Choka and his partner Boma business class tickets. Accommodation in Mountain View was covered, and within 48 hours of arrival, Choka pitched his idea to real investors. Back home, blogs buzzed, Suya seller, now Silicon Valley star. Informer tried calling. Zara sent a DM. I always knew you had potential. He didn't reply. Amara watched him shine in Zoom meetings, scribble code through the night, and still take walks with her under the soft California moonlight. She whispered one night, I fell in love with the man who flipped Suya, not the star they now see. Don't lose him. He held her waist gently. He's still here, just better dressed. Back in Lagos, Ifeoma was engaged to a wealthy businessman, 20 years older. He had 6 cars, 2 ex-wives, and a habit of yelling. Zara was talking stages with a senator's son who thought all women should stay silent when men speak. At first, they gloated, but slowly, reality sank in. Ifeoma's engagement collapsed after a cheating scandal. Zara's boyfriend left her for a Dubai influencer. They stalked Amara's Instagram like spies, seeing her and Choka in a Napa Valley, laughing at food trucks, coding in cafes. One day, Zara texted Amara anonymously. I envy you. I wish I had loved someone for who they were. Amara smiled at the message and showed Choka. She should have bought suya that day instead of pride. They returned to Nigeria 6 months later. Investors had poured money into Chuka's startup. He was now the CEO of a growing tech company, serving over 10,000 African vendors. The wedding was a grand fusion of class and culture. Guests whispered, This is the suya seller. That man is now richer than some ministers. Chief Maxwell gave a toast that silenced the entire hall. I once offered this man a job because I feared he couldn't care for my daughter. But today, I asked him to teach me how to see beyond limits because love saw clearer than experience ever could. 5 years later, Chuka and Amara now lived between Lagos and California. His startup was acquired. They had 2 children, Chima and Adora. Sometimes, Choka still grilled suya on their back patio for nostalgia, for peace. A journalist once asked him, "What's your greatest achievement?" He smiled. "Not the company, not the money, not even Silicon Valley. My greatest achievement was making Billionaire's daughter see love in a man smelling of smoke and dreams." This story has a lot to teach us. Number one is that love doesn't ask for your background. It only asks if your heart is still beating for someone when the world stops clapping. And if it is, then nothing else matters.